Welcome to the channel, and today I'll be covering why Destiny 2 is a horrible game for first-time players to start. Starting out, this game is a masterpiece in the gaming industry. When starting the game for the first time ever, this is the cinematic that plays out for you. The game is so beautiful and so thoroughly well made. It came out in September of 2017, but young me didn't start playing it until 2018, and when I finally got my hands on it, it was all I played at the time. I originally played Destiny 1 and I enjoyed it. Then I got to Destiny 2 and I enjoyed it even more. This is why I'm making this video today, because I'm going to explain why Destiny 2 is so hard for beginners to enjoy, to learn, and to even have fun with. The game is so dang complicated. Destiny 2 can be quite the challenge for new players. It's like being thrown into the deep end of a pool without knowing how to swim. The game is packed with content, but it can be overwhelming to figure out where to start and what to focus on. One of the biggest hurdles that I've came across is understanding the 6 stat points from armor drops, those being mobility, resilience, recovery, discipline, intellect, and strength. Each of these stats affect your gameplay in different ways, but the game doesn't do a great job of explaining this in the first place to new players. You're left scratching your head and wondering why your Guardian feels sluggish or why your abilities aren't recharging as quickly as you would like, and then when you come over to PvP, you get killed and pushed to the side and everybody else just feels OP while you're playing. So coming back to the stats here, mobility affects your movement speed and your jump height, so how fast you can move. Resilience impacts your health and your shield, so how much damage you can take in first before dying. And the recovery determines how quickly you regain that health. Discipline, intellect, and strength are all tied to your grenade, your super, and your melee ability cooldowns, so how long it takes before you can use the ability again. But without clear guidance, new players might not realize how critical these stats are to their playstyle and overall effectiveness in the game. It's a very steep learning curve and can be frustrating when we're just trying to enjoy the game and not get bogged down by all these mechanics. Bungie could definitely help improve the onboarding process to the new players to understand these systems better and make the game more accessible. Until then, it's a bit of trial by fire when you first start playing, because you get these armors like, oh, all these look cool, but they're not very good. Moving on, Destiny's 2 system for supers, fragments, and aspects can feel like a maze for new players. Each subclass has its own super ability, which is your ultimate power move, but understanding how to optimize it with fragments and aspects can add layers of complexity. Originally starting out in this game, you start with 3 supers off the bat. These 3 supers that you get are Arc, Void, and Solar. They are a part of the light side of the power system that's in the game that you get from the Traveler originally. And then later in the game, you go into the dark side, which you get to, which is Strand and Stasis. Unfortunately for Strand, you have to buy an extension of the game in the campaign to get this new power that just came out, which is fine in a certain aspect, but you still have to pay for it. We'll get to that later though. Now moving on to your class abilities, which is your supers where you have your grenade and your melees. The first one is your own class ability that's specific to your character. So for warlocks and titans and hunters, they all have different abilities. But for warlocks here, you have a healing rift that gives HP to people around you standing inside of this rift. And then the next one is how you glide, because you have a double jump, so you can change how that works. And then you have your melee, and then you have your grenade, which you can all change. And then later on, you'll get to your aspects here. Your aspects are your special abilities that modify your subclass, giving you unique perks or abilities. For example, they might enhance your movement or provide additional effects with your abilities, which on this one here is called Weaver's Call. How I was just talking about the rift, this applies to it. When you activate it, it weaves 3 threadings and deploy any threadings you have perched. So when you put down this healing rift, it sends out these things, which I like to call worms because they scurry on the ground. They'll track to the nearest enemy and jump at them and do a lot of damage. So as a starter out, if you're just playing the game and you're in a situation again where you might die, you can set down this HP rift that lets you heal and it sends out damage. So for that split second where you really need it or you're gonna die and reset the entire level, this helps. As a new player, you don't know that this is in the game until you do research, you ask a friend, which is very bad. It's good to learn these early on and study before you actually get into the game, but you shouldn't have to study, and you should be able to learn this right off the bat and be like, hey, for every super that you have these aspects and the fragments that change the entire gameplay. But to not miss covering, fragments are also smaller modifications that further tweak your subclass abilities, often providing stat boost or additional effects. The challenge is figuring out which combinations work best for you and your playstyle, and the game doesn't always make this clear. Moving on to my next biggest issues for Destiny's starting players is Destiny's 2 decision to vault content. This includes the original story that launched the game in the first place, the Red War. It is a major sticking point for many players, especially newcomers. Imagine diving into the game eager to learn the story and the rich lore and the epic campaigns, only to find out that significant chunks of the story are no longer accessible. It's like starting a book series from the middle. It's frustrating and confusing. The original Red War campaign, along with the other early expansions like Curse of Osiris and Warmind, were pivotal in setting the stage for Destiny 2's universe. They introduced key characters, lore, and plot lines that are essential to understanding the game's ongoing narrative. By vaulting this content, Bungie has effectively erased a part of the game's history, making it harder for new players to grasp the full scope of the story that is still ongoing. This decision impacts the game significantly. New players miss out on critical context and character development, which can make the current storylines feel disjointed. It also means that some of the game's most memorable moments and missions are lost to time, which is a real shame for those who want to experience everything Destiny 2 has to offer. While Bungie does have its reasons for vaulting content, which is understandable, such as managing the game's size and performance, it doesn't change the fact that it creates barrier for new players. Because you'll start the game out fresh and you go to the NPCs in the tower and they're still using the original lines that they had when the game came out 7 years ago. So you have no idea what these people are talking about, and you just started the game in 2024, it should be 2025. Now they have to rely on external sources like YouTube videos or wikis to piece together the story, which isn't the same as experiencing it firsthand. Now moving on to the next hardest issue for new players coming into Destiny to understand is the weapon perks that are in the game. These weapon perks can feel like a real headache for a new player to understand who doesn't know what these perks do to a gun, but it's hard not just for them but for the veterans alike too. The sheer number of perks and combinations that are out there can make your head spin. Each weapon can roll with a different perk that is significantly impacts its performance. And the thing is, you can grind for this, but you won't get the perk. And figure out the best combination for playstyle can feel like solving a puzzle. For instance, you might be looking for a specific role in a gun that includes perks like Outlaw and Rampage for PvE, or Snapshot Sights and Rangefinder for PvP. But getting that perfect role, it's like finding a needle in the haystack. The grind to get the right perks can be incredibly time consuming. You might have to run the same mission or activity dozens, if not hundreds of times just to get the chance at the role you want. This grind can be especially frustrating when you finally get the weapon you wanted to drop, only to see that the perks don't synergize well or aren't what you're hoping for. You feel like the game is taunting you dangling the perfect weapon just out of reach. And the thing is that this has been proven. As shown here, you can get one perk, but because you got that one perk, the chance of getting another one is slim. Just to get that perfect roll that will increase how your game plays and how well the gun works. And the thing is, Destiny tweeted out, showing here, they're like, oh, there's no such thing as perk waiting. We're going to investigate it, but there's no such thing. Only for them later to come out and be like, oh yeah, we fixed it, even though we said it's not a thing. So they just went back on their word. The complexity of weapon perks and the grind required to get a good roll can be a major barrier for enjoyment. It turns what should be a fun and rewarding experience that you get for loot into a tedious and frustrating slog, like almost you have a job where you have to get in and put hours just to get this gun. Bungie could definitely streamline this system or provide more ways to target specific perks to make the process less painful and more rewarding for progress and for players. One YouTuber I've seen who said it was Caucus HD, where he was like, instead of you grinding to get this roll, you can save this roll in your inventory so you can get rid of it and clear up some space in your vault, and then later go back and get that same roll since you already required it. But that's not possible. If you dismantle it and destroy it in your inventory, it's gone forever. You can't get it back. So you have to go back into this roll and constantly grind just to get the same thing again. It's not very efficient. Whether it's the overwhelming stat system, the convoluted supers and fragments, the frustration of vaulted content, the paywall just to play the campaigns, or the grind for the perfect weapon roll, there's no denying that Destiny 2 can be a tough game for new players to crack open. But despite all the challenges, it's still a game with a lot of heart and potential for epic adventures. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on future content. And feel free to share your own Destiny 2 experiences and frustrations in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.